Hello and welcome to Brandx Reviews. Pretty happy to be doing this video. I'm going to keep it very short because it's fairly topical, and in a few weeks time this video will pretty much be completely irrelevant and possibly even embarrassing if things change again after we've made plans. Pretty much everything I say is going to not just be irrelevant because the time has passed, but completely untrue and was never turned out to be true. Obviously, when I was talking about No Time to Die coming out and getting cancelled and what I thought about that, pretty much became embarrassingly irrelevant over time, so I had to delete that video. This one I'm talking about Tenet. I think from a historical context, I'm going to keep the videos up on the channel where I was previously talking about that film getting released in July, because this one's a bit more of a happy story if it plays out to plan anyway, from this point on. Because that was the one film that didn't get cancelled or delayed for quite a long time. That was one of the last ones to be done, and it was done last minute and only really cancelled slash delayed very briefly, at least outside of the US anyway, from what I'm aware of. So basically we have the release of the film now coming out at the end of August rather than, was it the middle of July from memory? I did do a couple of videos a couple of months ago, kind of theorising what I thought, how I thought it might play out. Obviously the intention was for Tenet to stand its ground and potentially be the only game in town when it comes to being, any competition in terms of what movies we're going to go see this weekend kind of thing. With this being the only film out, it could really sweep up the box office. Not opening weekend kind of figures that you would normally get because of certain things I'll get into, but just because of the fact that there's no major competition and for quite some time. So if this film has legs, it could actually make quite a lot of money. But it's a big experiment at the moment. It could really lose a lot of money, but I guess they need to find out. Somebody needs to really put the foot in the water to test the temperature before anybody else can think about getting in. So that aside anyway, the movie, like I say, is getting released at the end of August. I have been able to book tickets, so that has kind of given me a bit more confidence in this, and obviously we're only a couple of weeks out now at this point as well. So my experience of booking the tickets, obviously I live in the UK. I have gone for a screening at a chain cinema. I'm not being specific what and where and when for a number of reasons, but I don't want to give out wrong information because it pertains to a certain cinema. It might not pertain to another one, but the one that I've booked at has various different screens, and it looks like when you book tickets in a group, so I initially booked for two, there's me and one other person that I booked for, and it obviously booked those, and it also cancelled out now when you go back in after the booking. It shows that somebody to the left of me is booked out, and also somebody to the right of me is booked out. In terms of, I say me and the other person, there's our two seats. The two seats to the left of us are cancelled out, and the two seats to the right are now cancelled out of us as well. That's what I'm getting at. So it really wouldn't take a lot for an entire row to become unavailable, basically, because in certain screenings that I looked at, for example, you might have the front row, which doesn't have as many seats because it's central and it's recliners or whatever. And you've got like 12 seats on that front row, so like if I'd booked that would be effectively take up 6 seats, because just me and one other person would have taken up 6 seats, because there's our two, then there's a two to the left and the two to the right as well. So if another person was to do that could potentially just wipe out the entire row effectively. So I would suggest that if you're really interested in not just getting seats, but getting specific seats, that you book as soon as possible, in that sense. But, oh, hang on, the core is calling me. Let's see what he has to say about this. Recording a video about Tenet, and you've interrupted me, so now you are contractually obliged to take part in the video call.
Right. I was just saying, without going into specifics of which cinema I've booked, and we'll keep this in on the video, but yeah, without going into specifics of what I've booked, it looks like what happens is, if say there's two of you, it'll cancel out the two to the left and it'll cancel out the two to the right. So if you've got a row with like 12 seats on it, just you with your other person can pretty much wipe out half the row. So it'd only take like two groups to really wipe out an entire row, you know, with social distancing and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just got to be kind of wary of that, depending if you're wanting to get certain seats.
And if you got toe for long, you can wipe out something else.
Right, I'll stop recording this because I think that's pretty much all we've got to say on that one.
So yeah, that was the contribution from the core, just a random Topher joke, so thank you for that invaluable bit of information and contribution to this video. As you can see, we're on for quite a while. It's now gone dark outside because we're talking on Skype for quite a while, so apologies for that weird interruption there. But yeah, so like I say, if you're wanting to book this, there was hardly anyone else that's actually booked this specific showing at the same cinema at the screening that I've booked onto, so it'll be quite interesting to see how actually busy it is on the day. I tend to find that with bookings anyway, when I've booked films, with the odd exception like Star Wars movies. That was a hell of a long time ago. I haven't watched any of those for a while because they're all crap. But like the Marvel movies, like Endgame, that was mental. That was one where you had to like wait for like half an hour to even be able to get on the website because it was that sort of jammed. But a lot of the time when you book, you think, oh, I better book tickets for this, and then it's like literally one of the seats that's actually booked. I think most people will just rock up on the day and see what the score is. But again, it's a fact, so if you want specific seats, I would definitely recommend booking, because it doesn't take much really for those seats to be wiped out with the bookings taking two to the left, two to the right. There weren't anything that I saw where seats in front of booked seats were blocked out. It'd be interesting to know if any other cinemas are doing that. The one that I'm going to hasn't done that. There was some theory, I was just discussing this with the core, it was saying that maybe if two people book seats, then two to the left and two to the right get taken, or if it's just one person that books, one to the left, one to the right gets blanked out. That's not the case, because I've seen one where it was just one seat booked, and there were two to the left, two to the right of that kind of taken up. So I don't really know in terms of how they're going to change this. Obviously, it makes you then question, is this going to hurt the box office and all that kind of stuff. Well, we knew there was going to be measures like this anyway. We knew that there were going to be this kind of thing thrown in there as a condition for cinemas to be actually able to open. They have to have these kind of things in place in order to be allowed to do it, whether that's right or wrong. Interestingly, with the recliners, at certain cinemas, the one that I know of, the IMAX, the recliner seats there, the ones that you pay a lot extra for, they are spaced quite well anyway, yet they're still doing the two to the left, two to the right blanked out. That's quite a distance, to be honest, because even when you book next to somebody, there is quite a gap between you and them, because the recliner seats, the one that I've been to in the past, they're individual seats. They're just chairs basically. They're not like a row of seats all connected. So it's quite interesting that they've applied this to that as well, because it seems a little bit unnecessary. I think just having one seat space between the recliners would be adequate, because there's quite a gap anyway. But we'll see if they change that. Like I say, I've just kind of looked into other cinemas and I've noticed that that's the case with the recliners. So interesting to see if it stays that way. But anyway, I'm going to leave it there. I've kind of rambled on quite a bit. I will likely be doing a review of Tenet when it comes out, because I just haven't been to the cinema since December. The last film I saw was that 21 Bridges movie, which had Chadwick Boseman in it. I've got it here actually. Last film that I saw at the cinema, pretty decent film to be honest. But I didn't think when I went to see it that would be the last one for about 9 months, because that was back in December last year. So hopefully cinemas get back open, can get business kind of working again, and hopefully this isn't like a major threat to cinema going experiences. I think that it's gonna hit it quite a bit, and I think that we aren't going to be quite getting as many cinemas staying open, or at least doing as many screenings like we had. But as long as there's still options available, that's fine. So right, I'll leave it there. I've rambled. So pretty much it. Brandix Reviews. If you want to follow us, you can do on Facebook, YouTube, obviously, and the lesser used Instagram. We don't really use that as much nowadays. But you can follow us on those 3 platforms. If you have any questions or anything like that, any mailbag requests, send it in. I'll possibly do a video. And like I say, there'll probably be a Tenet review coming up at the end of the month when I've seen the film. But for now, I'll leave there and say thank you very much for watching. And again, thank you to the core for that invaluable contribution there with the Topher joke halfway through this video. Couldn't have done it without you, mate. Thank you very much.
It's the core. Is he the core? He's the core. He's the core. I've in a core. Are you having a core? Yes. Oh. You quite happy now?